Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're new. And if you are new, my name is Brittany, and lately I have been making a lot of tutorials about how to sell digital downloads and digital art on Etsy, and some of those videos have been doing really well, which brings me to why I'm here today. I'm going to be making another Etsy tutorial. You guys, Christmas is right around the corner. So I'm getting started early on some Christmas products. I'm going to be doing an experiment this year, and I'm going to upload 5 different digital download Christmas cards. And I thought, what better way to learn than by watching somebody do it? So I'm going to be taking you through my entire process of how I make these cards, how I format the actual digital file that I'll be selling the customer, how I make the mock-ups and everything. And if you're new to my channel as well, I like to use GIMP, G-I-M-P, rather than Photoshop. I use both, but I like to tell people about GIMP because GIMP is free, and I don't want anybody to feel like they've got to pay that monthly fee for Photoshop to be able to start selling art on Etsy. Before we get started, I do have a couple of housekeeping type of things to go over. Number one, I love you guys, but please don't message me on my Etsy if you have questions related to what you're going to be watching here on the channel. I really honestly appreciate the feedback and the questions. It's just that if you're a seller on Etsy, you know that they rate your performance by how quickly you respond to personal messages. So I want to keep that space reserved for actual customers. I really love that you have questions, so if you do have a question, just leave a comment here. I try to answer all the questions I can, with time limitations in mind. I do work a full-time job. This is just a hobby I do. Second thing is I want to give a special shout out to Becky and Louisa for buying me a coffee on my ko-fi coffee website. They donated to the channel, and I bought myself a new little microphone. We'll see how the sound sounds in here. So thank you to those 2 people who did that. And then lastly, I did want to mention some upcoming videos I have in mind. I've had a request to make a tutorial for how to make a mock-up for a gallery wall set. So that is coming up. And then I've also had a couple people ask me to make a tutorial on how to make a mock-up for coffee mugs, which, if I'm being honest, I've never done before, so I'm trying to do my due diligence and do research on that, make sure it looks good before I make a tutorial on that. So with all that being said, if you find any of this information useful or helpful, go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment, wherever you can on the channel. It tells YouTube I'm doing a good job, so I want to make sure I am doing a good job and putting good content on the internet and helping people. So with all that out of the way, let's just go ahead and get into the tutorial. First things first, let me show you a quick glimpse of what I'm going for in this video. Here's a sample of one card I've already designed. So this will be a 5-inch wide by 7-inch tall card. And what I'm gonna offer the customer is the option they're gonna get basically 3 files. They'll have one where it'll be a folded card. So I'll have to set up the design in a specific way for that. And I'll show you how to do that. And then in the other files, it'll just be a front and a back version. Here's a sample of the front. I've already mocked it up. Here's another one. When I do my mock-ups, I try to get as much variation in the staging as possible because I want the customer to be able to really envision it like in their home, at their party, whatever. So different styles. And here's what I mean by folded. So what you're looking at on the right there is the front of it folded. And then when you open it up, it'll have a to and a from, and then they have space to write like a little note for their loved one. Isn't that so cute? So yeah, like I said, I'm going to be offering a folded version, and then if they want to just not have it folded, they just want to have it one card, I'll give them the front image and the back image so they can print it front and back. Blech, that's a mouthful. I know I always advertise GIMP on this channel, but some of my viewers do use Photoshop. So in today's video, I'll do something new. I'll show you how to make a mock-up in GIMP, and I will also show you how to make a mock-up in Photoshop with some free mock-ups online. They're great. I just discovered this the other day. It's amazing. Secondly, I wanted to show you what the final file will look like. So this is what the customer will actually be purchasing. This is a standard US letter size piece of paper, 8.5 by 11. And I've got it all measured out. I'll tell you the measurements you need for this so that this is the folded version of the card. So this would be the outside of the card. And then This would be the inside of the card. So they'll have to be able to print with a service that prints front and back. Essentially, you're printing on one piece of paper. This is the front, this is the back, and then you fold it. I did want to show you a quick trick in Canva real quick for exporting. I've heard you guys that you can't figure out how to export your art in 300 dpi, and I figured out a way around this. It's really messy, but it works. So right now, this file itself is 5 by 7 inches. So if I go to download this and I click download JPEG and I push quality to 100 and I download as is, let's see what we get. The dimensions are 1428 by 2000 pixels, but the resolution is not 300 dpi. If you need a refresher on what DPI means and why it is so important if you're going to be selling digital art on Etsy, I will link one of my other videos in the top right where I go over that in really, really great detail. That's something you just need to inherently understand for this. But you can see here Canva did not download at 300 dpi, it downloaded at 286 dpi. So instead of downloading at the inherent size on Canva, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click download, JPEG again, quality 100. I'm going to increase the size up like 1 increment, and I'll show you what happens. So let's download that. 2143 by 3000 pixels at 429 dpi. So this has even more resolution than we need. So that's how I get around that. I just bump up the size 1 increment. I don't know what that even means, if I'm being honest. I was just playing around and then I figured this out. So hey, it's a higher resolution than what we need, so this will work just fine. Let's go on over to GIMP and I will show you how to make the first file. Okay, my face will probably look dark now. That's because we're staring at the gray screen of doom in GIMP. So to get a new project started, we want people to be able to preferably print this at home. So we're going to use the standard paper size for like home printers, which is 8.5 by 11 US letter size. And that's already a saved template on GIMP. So I'm going to go to File, New. I'm going to click this drop down on the template and I will look for US letter. And it's already at 300 ppi. So we see it's 8.5 by 11, but I'm actually going to turn the paper sideways. You'll see why in a sec. You just click this button here to switch the orientation and click OK. So I like to set up my center point first with some guides. So I'm going to go to Image, Guides, New Guide by percent. Horizontal at 50% means it'll just put it straight in the middle. There we go. And then I'll go to Image, Guide, New Guide by percent, vertical 50%. So there's our center point. Next, I will go ahead and open those Christmas card files. So let's get those. So now we're looking at, this is just a different design. I just wanted to show off my designs. Here is the front design. This is the inside design, or the back if they're not going to do a folded card. So we exported this a little larger than what we needed in Canva, right? So we could capture that resolution we need. So we need to resize this to the 300 dpi at 5 by 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Image, Print Size. We're going to change the resolution to 300. Click OK. Nothing should look different. That is correct. Then we're going to click Image, Scale Image. We're going to change this to inches. And we're going to change the width to, the width to 7. Yes, okay. And click Scale. Now it looks a little smaller. That is correct. Now it is 5 by 7 at 300 dpi. So I know that was a little confusing, but I know a lot of people work in Canva, so I wanted to show you how to get around that. Let's do the same with the other one. So let's go over it again. So it's too large from Canva, right? Let's make it 5 by 7 at 300. Image, print size, 300, enter. Okay, you shouldn't see a difference, that's fine. Go to Image, Scale Image, drop down, inches, change this to 7. We're basically reducing it by 30%. And it automatically changes the height to 5. Et voila. Okay, so this one is also 7 by 5 at 300 ppi. So let's bring these over into our project here. So I'm going to click on this layer, click Control C for copy, back to my project, click Control V to paste. Then I will click the green button that says add a new layer. It looks like the little square with the plus sign. Click that. Do the same with the other one. So we have the inside or the back, the front, and our printer paper, 8.5 by 11. I'm gonna keep this guy, I'm gonna keep it hidden for now. I'm just gonna work on the front, this right here. So what I need to do is I need to rotate this 90 degrees, and then I need to make a gray box for the customer to know where to cut. So the printer paper here is 11 by 8.5. The card doubled up, so we can account for that fold, will end up being 10 by 7. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so we need to rotate this. Make sure you're clicked on the right layer. Go to Layer, Transform, rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise. You really want to make sure your orientation is correct. If you need to, print this out at home and fold it up, cut it out, and make sure it's right. You do not want to sell this when it's wrong. Since we set up these guides here, these little things that show our center point, this is going to be super easy. You're going to make sure you're on your Move tool, which is, it looks like 2 arrows like this. Make sure you're on the layer with the art, and you're just going to click, hold your mouse, and drag it till it snaps like that. Now, you may have a setting on here that causes you trouble. Let me point this out. Make sure under View, your Snap to Guides thing is checked off. If it's not, it won't like snap to that middle point, and it'll be so difficult. So make sure that is checked off. Let's do the same with the other one. So let's hide that front layer, bring the back design or the inside design. Make sure you're selected on that. Go to Layer, Transform, rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise, click and hold your mouse and drag. It's that simple. Now I want to make that gray box, and I'll tell the customer, cut on the gray line for your final card, whatever. I'm gonna make a new layer. I will call it Borders. You can see I've already done this. Next, what I need to do is I'm gonna make some more guides for where the borders should go. Let's get out paint. In red, I'm going to draw the US printer paper, US letter size. That is 11 inches. I'm doing this with my mouse. 8.5. On the inside of that, which needs to be centered, I'll do it in blue, will be our art, which is 10 by 7, which is essentially 2 pieces of 5 by 7. Are you following? I hope you are. So we need to figure out where to put a guide here, a guide here, and here. Oops, this is hard to do with a mouse, here and here. So the customer knows where to cut, because we have to trim out the extra paper. Remember, in GIMP, we have to work in pixels, which right now we have set to 300 per inch. Let's figure out how many inches are on each side of this in pixels. First, let me do some conversions. So this in pixels is 3,300. This in pixels is, I don't know, 2550. This space here, it's 8.5 minus 7 divided by 2. So that would be 1.5 divided by 2, which is 0.75 inches. So we're gonna put 0.75, 225 pixels. This is also 225 pixels. So this will be at position 2325. So then we have to do the same for this. We have, so that's 10 and 11, that's half. So that's 150. If this doesn't make sense to you, like I said, go watch that other video. You can just take my numbers. This is a mess. I have all my numbers figured out. So let me try to explain this as I go through it. So we need to do those 4 guides at those pixel positions I just calculated. So we're gonna go to Image, Guides, New Guide, and unfortunately this wants you to work in pixels. I would love it if it would just let you work in inches. It doesn't. See, it wants a position in pixels. So for the horizontal axis, we know that first one was 0.75 inches down, which was 225 pixels. Okay, you see that yellow dotted line? That's our card. So that guide ended up right on top of the card. We know that's right. So we went 225 down, and then we need to do the next one, which is 225 from the bottom which is at position 2325. Guide 2325. There it is. Okay. And then we need to do image, guide, new guide, vertical. We need to do 150, which is half an inch. And then we need to do image, guide, new guide. And then we need to do 3300. What was it again? 3150. 3150. There we go. There's our guides. So let's make sure we're back on our borders layer. First, we're going to set up our paintbrush tool. This will make sense in a second. We're going to set up our paintbrush tool with the settings we want that border to be. I want like a thin gray solid line. So I will go to my paintbrush tool. I will pick a color that's gray. If it's too dark, we can always change the opacity later. And my brush is on a very hard brush. I don't want any of that fluffy stuff feathering on the outside. So it's on a hard brush. And let's check the size. That's a little too thick for my liking. So let's go down. So I'm on a 10 size with a hard brush with a gray color. I'm gonna go back to my rectangle select tool and I'm on my borders layer. And I am going to, do you see why I made the guides there? It just snaps right to it. So let me show you that again. I'm on my rectangle select tool. I'm gonna click just somewhere around this intersection at this top left, click, and it somehow knows I'm trying, like that's what that snap to guides thing does. It just snaps to the nearest guide. And then I'm gonna let my mouse go right near there and it just snaps right to everything perfectly. So now that line essentially is selected. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click edit, stroke selection, and this is where that paintbrush setting stuff comes in handy. At the bottom here, I have stroke with a paint tool. So basically what it's gonna do is it's gonna stroke along that line with the paintbrush settings that I selected. So I'm gonna click stroke. Okay, I will click Control-Shift-A to stop selecting that. I'm going to get rid of the guides just to see the border. So I'm gonna click View. I'm gonna take off the guides by clicking Show Guides, make that X go away. So this is what it looks like. And as expected, I think that gray line is a little too dark, so I will just change the opacity. Okay, so this is my finished file for the front of the folded card version. So what I will do at this point is I will do Control-Shift-E. I will find in my computer where I want to export this, and then I'll just put it in my downloads for now. I will call it folded card front dot, you have to do dot JPEG. GIMP won't know if you want it to be like a PNG or a PDF or what unless you put the extension. So put dot JPEG and I will do export. And a new screen will pop up, set this baby to 100 and then you'll click export and that will be your finished file for your front. And let me show you guys how easy it is to do the next part. What you're going to do is you're going to click the eyeball next to your front and make your other design visible. We already put it in the right spot, so you're already finished right here. So then you would do the same and you would export that. So those are your two files for the folded card version. Now, watch this. We already set these up at the beginning for the non-folded version. These are literally already 5x7 at 300. So you can just export these and then you sell these to the customers as well for the non-folded version. So you're already done with the files for the card. So let's go ahead and move to the mockup. And if you know me, I like to go to a website called Unsplash. It is a royalty-free photography website, so you can use any photos you see on there for free for anything. There's no copyright or legal issues. So let's go to Unsplash. Okay, we are here on Unsplash. This is that website I was talking about. You can search card mockup, which is what I did here, and you will find plenty of options you can use. However, I was trying to find some that were more Christmas themed for you guys. So yeah, you can just pick any one you want. Just search card mockup and there's a ton. I think I will start first with this. So I'm gonna download this and we will open it in GIMP. Okay, so like I said, I think we should increase the exposure. So I'm going to go to colors, exposure, I think something like that. Like that is good. So just bump that up as much as you want. So next I'm going to turn this because we have a horizontal card. I think it would be best if the holly was on top. So I will go to image, transform, rotate, like that. And I'm gonna crop this a bit. That looks good. Okay, so now I'm going to bring this over to my project. So I'll make sure I've clicked on the layer, click Control Copy, go to my project, click Control Paste, and click the green button to add a new layer. That's the one that looks like a square with a plus sign. This will make sense in a second. Basically, the aspect ratio of the card in the mockup is a little different than this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click Shift S to resize my card. And I don't wanna make it like too drastically different from what's in the mockup because I don't wanna misrepresent the proportions and everything. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to scale this to the width. I know we're gonna miss some height here, but I'll fix it in just a sec. So I'm going to click Scale. Maybe a little bigger. Yeah, like that. Just so it hangs off the sides a little bit. Okay, I had to play around with this for a second off screen so I could figure this out for you guys. I'll leave a link for this image, by the way, in my description box so you can follow along. So if you are following along and you're using this exact image, I want you to use these exact settings and you can just save the time I just saved. So again, go to select by color and the settings on the right, make sure you have feather edges selected and the radius should say 19.7 and the threshold, have it say 12.4. So click on the white, anywhere in the white, and make sure you have your alpha channel. So right click on the layer, click add alpha channel, then click delete on your keyboard, and there's your card. Now, technically we didn't get rid of all of the old card in the actual mockup photo. So let me show you how to deal with that. Let's click Control Shift A to get rid of our selection. Let's just go ahead and blur the borders of some of those shadows. So I'm going to click on the eraser tool. I'm going to click a brush that's very soft. I'm at size 291. I'm going to reduce the hardness and force quite a bit. Oh, make sure to just stay on the card. And I'm just clicking along this border here to kind of, although I think I just made it worse. Let me reduce my hardness and force. Reduce your hardness and force quite a bit and just click lightly on the borders of those shadows. I honestly think that looks fine right there. And I'm gonna center my card, so I'll click on the layer with my card, use my move tool, and just make sure this is centered. I know we're still missing some space. So what I'm gonna do actually is I know my card is white, my card itself, it's white. So what I'm gonna do on my layer with the card is just paint some white and fill it in. My layer's not big enough. If you run into this problem, do layer to image size. There we go. All right, so if I turn the front layer off, it looks really goofy, but nobody will be able to tell. So we have our jacked up card. We have the mock-up done, which is basically a hole. What I'm gonna do at this point is on my card itself, I think it looks a little bright for the setting, so I'm gonna lower the exposure just a bit. That might even be too much. I think that's good right there. One last thing I did as well is, let me zoom in here. I added some texture of, this is actually watercolor paper. This is a really fun trick I like to do to make it just look even that much more realistic. So what I need you to do is go on Google, just search watercolor paper. That's all you need to search. And I'll show you the image I used. I used this one here from Free Pick. I'll put the link in my description box as well of this video. Download this and then bring it into your project in GIMP and I'll show you where it is. It is right here. It's this middle layer. You can barely see it. This is the watercolor paper picture itself, just here on the project. If I bring all my layers back, you can see it just looks like paper. Where'd my card go? So what you need to do is we're gonna change the mode of this layer and the opacity. So change your opacity to like 50%, then change your mode to multiply. So there's a drop down here where it says normal, click mode, then click multiply, and there you go. I don't know what multiply does, but it doesn't affect like the ink, it just affects the paper. Fair warning, I did off screen have to go in and erase a little bit more of those missed areas. It didn't take too long. I just used the eraser again and just did a little bit more of that till it looked like this. So those shadows on the holly are still there. The paper texture is there. Our art is there, and I think it looks great. So this you would export as one of your listing photos. And then, again, to make our lives easier, what we can do is get the back art, copy this, bring it to our project, paste as a layer. We're gonna scale this to a little bit wider than the card here, scale. We'll center that, okay? And then, yes, we need to do the white paint again. Layer to image size, and fill in that empty space like we did on the other one. So here's the finished product. So you would export this as well for another listing photo. And then I would make sure to have some mock-ups for the folded aspect. So to do that, at the beginning I told you I would show you how to get some free Photoshop mock-ups. So let me show you how to do that. This is a website called FreePic, and I've been using it a lot lately to make that whole process that you just saw a lot faster. There's nothing wrong with using GIMP, because like with GIMP, that takes maybe 20 minutes to make a mock-up, but then you can save that and just drag in your art over and over again as you make new art, and you don't have to do that whole process again. But I will show you here where to find mock-ups if you do happen to have Photoshop and you don't use GIMP. So go to freepic.com, and you're going to click free over here on the left for your filters, PSD, and I'm just gonna do folded card mockup. So here's one we could use to show that it could be a folded card. I'm trying to find, here's a perfect one. So I will show you how to do this one. So what we're gonna do is you wanna make sure it's a PSD file type. If it's just a JPEG you're downloading, it's not gonna work. So go ahead and download this file. And once it's done downloading, we're gonna go in that zip file and we're gonna open the PSD file. So let's move on. We're gonna open our art images. So here's a different card I've designed. Next we need to open the smart object for, let's do the front cover. So I'm gonna open the folder for cover note, click on that smart object by double clicking, and we basically need to bring our cover and replace this. So here is a file for this is a different design. For the cover, I'm gonna right click on the layer, duplicate layer, and in this document drop down, click, you wanna pick the file where that smart object was. So usually it says like place your design here, so I know it's this one. So I'm gonna go to design here. You can see that it brought it in as a layer, and it's the wrong size and it's the wrong orientation. So orientation's easy. I will go to edit, transform, rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise, and then I need to scale. How do I do that again? Transform, scale, here we go. And drag and drop the corners. It's a little bit of a different aspect ratio, but I'll just make sure it's centered. Click enter, click Control S to save, go back to the art. Oh my God, it's so cute. Okay, let's do the last one, which will be the right page. So right page, click on that smart object, go to your inside design, which is this. Right click on the layer, duplicate layer, click the drop down. It's design here 21, okay. We will go to edit, transform, rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise, and then I think it's Control T, yeah. To scale, click Control T, drag and drop these corners, There we go. Enter, Control S to save. And there we go. I don't like how the background's red, so let me show you how I'm going to change that real quick. I'm going to click on the bottom layer, which contains that red background. I will click what is that? Adjustment layer, hue saturation. So what I'm aiming to do is change the background to more of a green. I did a similar one earlier. I think what I did was click reds, drag this to, okay, yeah. I dragged it to more of a green, and then I decreased the saturation. Yeah, I think something like that is good. So you can just play around with colors and change the background as you like. So again, you would export this as one of your listing photos. I think what I'll end up doing is I'll make like a PDF, type some instructions for them on how to print it out. And yeah, I think that's it. I know I went over this really fast. I feel like my videos drag on, so I tried to fit everything in here. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. I try to get to all the questions. Leave a comment below if you have any special things you're going to be trying for the Christmas season this year, or maybe even for like Thanksgiving and whatnot. I've done some printable stationery, and what I did last year, or no, not last year, I was sick, the year before or something like that, I did lined paper. So it's literally like, here, I'll show you the listing. This is what I made. I made like lined paper, and it sold really well come Christmas time. I sold quite a few of these. So that's why this year I wanted to try experimenting with some other Christmas designs. So leave a comment if you're going to be experimenting with some Christmas designs of your own. Are you going to be doing cards, papers, paintings, like wall designs? Are you going to be trying anything? And if you are, leave a comment and let me know. I'm curious what you're going to be trying out, and let me know how it works out. Again, as a friendly reminder, if any part of this video helped you out, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe where you can. It tells YouTube I'm doing a good job, and I want to make sure I'm putting good content on the internet and helping you guys. If you have any requests for future videos, leave it in the comments. And with that being said, I'm going to head out because it's midnight and I'm tired. So I will see you guys next time. Bye.